Well, here's the situation following turn 10. I believe my last video was up through turn 8. We had some pretty crucial things that happened there. Let me just discuss what's happened since turn 8. The tide has definitely shifted. The Germans are in retreat. Battipaglia has fallen to the Commonwealth. Commonwealth forces are shifting northward and applying direct pressure on the thinner line up here. Well, actually northwest. The map is somewhat canted. This is not exactly north. It's actually northwest. Anyways, the Commonwealth is shifting the focus. The weight of its attack is moving up that direction. So we've gone ahead and pulled the 56th Division away from Battipaglia with the exception of one understrength brigade to garrison that. We do have a nice Zachbahn formed there so that they can't get a direct attack on it. Meanwhile, the U.S., I think it's the 45th, 45th Division with tank support, is going to be taking over security operations in this sector, freeing up the Commonwealth to push inland from the northwest. Meanwhile, 82nd Airborne working really hard to clear this corridor, and it came within a whisker of doing it. They rolled a 6 for the attack with air support and forced a D1 result. But the troopers from the 26th Panzer had artillery support, rolled for determined defense, and they also rolled very high. They rolled a 5, which became a 6, and inflicted a step loss on the 82nd Airborne, and the artillery broke up the attack. The retreat was canceled. That saves 2 whole battalions, crucial battalions, from the 26th Panzer. They are going to be able to slip out of there in the German half of this turn. Couldn't quite get that sealed up. That would have been a really important battle. If they could have been able to exploit that and set up a Zachbahn, then this pocket here might have been eliminated. The big story, though, is that the Germans have pulled back from proximity to Salerno. And while they still, no, they don't threaten the airfield here either. They're done with that. So no more air support for the Germans. The 10th Flieger Corps is not going to be able to be used. And anytime you roll for weather on the weather table and you get an asterisk result, you get an extra supply point for the Allies. So the Allies can start using the port more effectively to bring in the ammunition needed to resupply the artillery units. And that's going to be a big difference maker. Why did I pull the Germans back? A couple reasons. They took losses in some of the attacks trying to drive in and close off that beachhead. They came so close to doing it and failed. And so their line was a little thin, and it was the counterattacks with use of the Valiant and Warspite that forced, in my opinion, I think that was still a sound move to retreat inland and not allow those pieces to be continually used. I mean, only had one more shot with the Warspite and Valiant, but couldn't afford to lose another unit, let's put it that way. So I felt that moving them inland, yeah, you're giving another supply point away a little bit earlier maybe than I wanted to, but couldn't afford to lose anything there. So that's why we made that decision, and that's the cost we're going to pay for it. So that's been the goings on there. The 7th Armored Division is pretty much concentrated in the area just to the northwest of Salerno. Not ideal tank country. However, if they can get into that village, it becomes tank country. And so the Seafires gave them a nice combat shift. The Seafires and Corps Artillery gave them a 3-to-1, and they rolled a 4, which forced a retreat. But the Nebelwerfers canceled the retreat, and although not well, so they only got a partial success in that. So one more of those, and they will get retreated out of that city. And then it becomes a whole new problem for the Germans if the Allies get tank support in this area. This all becomes untenable, and there's a lot of points to be made by exiting units off of the N1 entry area. So the Germans are in a full retreat down here because of the events up there. And now that it is turn 11, there will be elements of the 8th Army arriving from the south, albeit slowly. Meanwhile, I've also been able to free up 3 battalions of tanks and tank destroyers as a nuisance force to coax these guys along. The single infantry battalion couldn't do anything about the Fallschirmjägers with assault gun support because, yeah, they just can't move into this open area with those tanks there. They're going to get clobbered. This is elite infantry and with tanks, so these guys got to stay in the hills, and they can't do anything to cut the road. These guys are basically keeping the roads open for all this whole force. Brought these tank destroyers down here because I feel like they can do more as a maneuver group to move this along or threaten this than they can applying their meager combat strengths to any of the attacks going on down here. So that's why I've shifted them south. One last thing about this turn, just started turn 11. So really we've just covered 2 complete turns since my last video. Turn 11 just began. The only thing I've done so far is to roll out the weather, and we rolled a 1. So the Allies have had some really bad die rolls, but they've gotten a couple clutch ones in the last 3 turns, and this was an important one because there's a good chance that they're going to have another turn of clear weather, which will give them more supply points. As long as you're winning that supply point battle, the Germans eventually are going to lose their ability to do those determined defenses, and you will start to break through. So the game suddenly become very interesting right about the halfway point. So we'll move this thing along and see what happens from here.